Hey guys, what's up? Kalamazi here, and today, as promised, we're going to be looking at Demonology Warlock on the BFA Alpha. This is a quick Atal'Dazar run, and I was able to log it, and we're going to have a brief damage report and analysis after each boss, and once at the end for overall damage. Now, if you're looking for a quick guide for Atal'Dazar, I will link my dungeon guide in the description below. You can also check the channel dungeon guide section for a quick highlighted guide hitting all the boss abilities as well as relevant trash packs in general. I will also have a link to the logs in this run in the description below, so feel free to check that there for an even more in-depth breakdown. Now I know and felt overall the demo is in a pretty good place overall. What I was a bit surprised to see here is how far I was ahead of actually the Affliction Warlock and the Marksman Hunter alike. It was a pretty stationary fight, but I did sort of fail on a few abilities, so taking that into account I was pretty impressed. Taking a look over here at the actual breakdown for Demo, we can see Melee is the highest overall ability, with Hand of Gul'dan followed by Fell Firebolt. Now, Melee is your Dreadstalker's damage as well as your Felguard's damage, other random demons that you summon, and they Melee in general, so that will typically always be your highest ability. Hand of Gul'dan being second is a bit interesting, and you contribute that a lot to us spawning a lot of the random raptors by running over the bone piles in that fight. Normally you see Fell Firebolt being second highest as well, which is very similar to the way Demo currently is on the live servers.
Came for the gold, but you will leave behind your bones.
Priestess and Loons as a second fight that we're going to see here. One thing that I want to make note of early is that I did actually forget to use another portal here. I guess I'm just pretty used to playing Demo currently on the live servers, and having no demonic empowerment as well as life tap does make for a little bit of changes here. Overall, I felt this fight was pretty straightforward, a single target fight. I think that having the extra add here does account for a little bit more Hand of Gul'dan damage overall, but it really shouldn't affect the logs too much. As you can see here, the group does miss a few soaks in the actual blood piles here, so it does prolong the fight a little bit.
Atal'Dazar's power flows through me. You do not belong here. your heart. Corruption be purified. Wounds must be cleansed.
Now overall here, I was pretty surprised to see Demo with such a commanding lead, I guess you could say, over the Marksman Hunter, and especially the Affliction Warlock. We did have the second target for about 25% or so of the fight's duration, but I just felt that, you know, they would be a little closer. With that being said, this is the first patch or build that Demonic Commander is actually functioning, and there's been a drastic increase in Demonology's damage. So I'm pretty happy to see this, although I'm a little bit hesitant moving forward. Just obviously there could be some nerfs, well there will be some nerfs in tuning. And another thing to keep in mind here as well is that both the fights we've actually seen so far are pretty stationary overall, which has always been Demo's strong suit compared more so to Affliction or Marksman Hunter, which has a little bit more cleave and multi-target. Now taking a look at the overall damage breakdown, you can see that melee is still first, which contains your Dreadstalkers, your Felguard, and your Vile Fiend summon as well. Fel Firebolt is second, which is much more similar to, you know, being a single target fight. Hand of Gul'dan is third here, as you can see, different from the first fight. There's not a whole lot of adds to actually cleave on. Both Demon Fire and Demon Fire Blast are from your Demonic Tyrant, which he does, you know, damage dealing abilities in addition to extending the duration of your current active pets, which is awesome. And Bile Spit is from your Vile Fiend, which is a little bit of its damage in addition to its melee attacks. Now Volcal is probably the most multi-target fight we're going to see in here, as you have to kill these 3 reanimation totems before he becomes actually damageable. One thing to note here is that having Implosion baseline is really nice, and that's due to the fact the imps are running off an energy system, you know, as well as sort of a duration system outside of combat, or it varies a bit in combat with energy and duration, which is something we can get into more so in another video. But having Implosion baseline is a really great way to swap targets. When one of these totems is very low, you can swap to another one and just send your remaining imps that have, you know, a few seconds left remaining on their energy or duration at the initial totem, and it gives you a little bit of an extra damage buffer as well, actually using Implosion, which is great. Now as you can see here, when all 3 of the reanimation totems are dead, Volcal does become active. And one thing here is that this is sort of a movement heavy fight as well, when he keeps throwing these, you know, large green pools below you and you have to keep moving. That's basically his enrage. One thing you want to do here is manage your shards well, probably a little better than I did at times, but holding your Demon Bolt instant cast is really big. It allows you to have a little bit of spells to cast while you're on the move, and you'll see here, even when the fight gets a little bit farther, there's a decent bit of movement. So that's definitely something to keep in mind.
Master, gonna build me again.
Taking a look at the actual damage breakdown here, things are a bit closer. You can see him about 600 or 700 or so DPS ahead of the Marksman Hunter, and the Affliction Warlock was a little lower than I expected, but there is some target changing, and, you know, if Affliction have a bit of ramp up and everything as well, that could count a little bit for it. As I mentioned, there is a lot of movement in the fight, and you have having your soul fires and just really being, you know, managing your soul shards really well is really important here. Taking a look at the actual damage breakdown here, it's pretty similar to the last fight. You can see melee, your Felguards, your Dreadstalkers, and your actual Vile Fiend are number 1 by a good bit. Fel Firebolt is second, Hand of Gul'dan is third, and you can see Demon Bolt is fourth, and that's going to depend a little bit on procs, you know, as well as movement. If you're moving a decent bit, actually saving your Demon Bolts, it's going to be, you know, a little higher than the other abilities, depending on, you know, the fight and the movement overall. Yasma is the final boss of the dungeon, and it is sort of a relatively heavy movement fight. There's not a whole lot initially, but it ramps up a lot towards the end where there's not really a whole lot of room to move, and you're just constantly moving. So managing your demon bolts is really important there. One thing I did want to make note of here is that I did use another portal there initially, and that's not something that you really want to do. I realized very quickly that it costs 3 soul shards, and you'd rather, use another portal and then, cast up Dreadstalkers, and hopefully you might have a stack or 2 of Demon Bolt banked up where you can just instantly cast both those, then get a 3 and Panda Gul'dan out, and really just be dumping those soul shards. That's an area where I think I definitely lost a little bit of damage here. Another thing to talk about is that when you're targeted with Soul Rend, or any member of your group is targeted with Soul Rend here, it's very important to kill these adds, and saving your Demon Bolt procs here, and your Implosions, and just your imps and everything as well. Imp management, Demon Bolt management is very important. If those adds hit the boss, you're realistically just going to wipe. The damage on the Alpha currently is insane if any of them hit the boss.
Not waste my time.
Now, as I mentioned a little bit ago, as you can see right here, there's a lot of movement towards the end of the fight. There's a lot of adds in the ground that you don't want to hit, and when the Soul Rends start going out, playing Demonology here, it's really nice having Implosion baseline. Being able to just throw those imps at the Soul Rend adds when they spawn, and having the Shadow Furies, having to stun the adds, everything in the sword are really important, as well as saving your Demon Bolt procs. I thought there they'd actually be able to stun the ad and then move out of the spot in the ground, but as you can see there, it hits really hard. Regardless of me dying there, as I said, having the ad hit the boss there is basically a wipe, and at this low on the fight, it's mainly just the kill target. Being farther away from the boss when you're targeted with the Soul Rend is very important as well, and at that point, you're just going to really have to make a split-second decision as to what you want to do there. Now, looking at the damage breakdown here, this is something that's a lot more in line with what I expected. I did die towards, the very end portion of the fight, but I don't think that holds a lot of merit here. As I mentioned, there's just a lot of movement in the later half of this fight. So I'm banking 3 to 4 stacks of Demon Bolt here, and really just being, proper with your movement and everything, and managing your Implosions to kill the Soul Rend adds is going to be really important. Now, taking a look at the actual damage breakdown for Yasma, you can see that melee is number 1, Fell Fireball is number 2, and Hand Gul'dan is number 3. Shadow Bolt and Demon Bolt are going to alternate between 4 and 5 respectively, and a lot of the time that's just going to depend on your actual instant cast Demon Bolt procs. You don't really want to be banking 4 at all times, and sometimes you're going to get a whole lot. You're going to have to use them, when you're already at 3 or 4 shards. It probably effectively wastes a shard because you don't really want to be sitting on 4. But it's really just going to depend a lot, like I said, on movement heavy fights like Yasma that we saw there. It's very important to bank them, but also manage them well, as well as managing your imps for Implosion and certain things when the Soul Rend adds are spawning. One thing to make note of here, and you can see, is that Implosion actually is a good bit of our damage on this fight. Now, and that's sort of based off the new energy system that imps are running on. When you actually, it makes targets swapping a lot easier. Before you had to actually wait for your imps to change targets and cast again. If they had only a few seconds remaining on the duration, that was sort of a waste. Now, having Implosion baseline makes that a lot more, much more simple, a lot more easier, and it really makes it really powerful for fights to have adds where you need to kill them very quickly, like the Soul Rend adds we saw there. Taking a look briefly at the overall trash breakdown damage for the dungeon, and it's sort of surprising. I was surprised to see myself this high overall, and once again, this is excluding actual boss fights, and this is just trash packs in general. Taking a look, well, we'll be taking a look at the breakdown here in a second. I would imagine that a very large portion of the damage is actually Hand Gul'dan damage as well as Implosion damage. Now, while Demonology is not being played a whole lot in the live servers, one thing to keep in mind is I believe at the start of Antorus, or the first tuning patch or so, that Wild Imp Firebolt damage was reduced by a decent bit, and Hand of Gul'dan's actual impact damage was increased by a very large percent, which is probably going to account for a lot of our damage on trash overall. Taking a look at the actual trash breakdown, you can see here that Hand of Gul'dan is in second place by a considerable amount over Dreadbite, and Implosion is in 6th place, which is an ability that you're using a decent bit when your imps are getting relatively low on energy. One thing to make note of here is that it's not really actually possible to track your imp's energy currently on the Battle for Azeroth Alpha, and that's because they don't have any energy bars. Now, I'm sure there's going to be certain add-ons or weak cores added on live servers, and I would imagine they're probably going to implement some kind of energy bar or resource pretty soon. But, having Implosion baseline, like I mentioned before, is just absolutely awesome. Being able to throw your remaining 3 to 8 imps, or whatever you have active at the trash pack when they're almost dead, is awesome. Now, we know, like on live servers, Demonology suffers a decent bit from movement. Having Demon Wrath, Life Tap, and I guess you could sort of say Demonic Empowerment Remove, which procs your instant cast Shadow Bolt on live servers, is going to be pretty relevant. It's going to be pretty important to know the fights you're approaching very well ahead of time, and saving your Demon Bolt stacks when you need to is going to be really important as well for movement on these fights, as you can see here. I hope this quick Demonology guide was helpful to you all. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of it and what other classes or specs you would like to see with logs on the Battle for Azeroth Alpha. If you want to see more BFA and Warcraft content, hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons, guys. Thanks so much for everything, guys. Peace.